So, I originally started this channel to post videos of me gaming for my friends. Nothing really serious, it was just supposed to be for fun. And then I made a video ranting about being schizoaffective, and a friend of mine told me that video was pretty educational and very important, basically. It was then I realized I could use this platform to spread awareness to my friends about psychosis and to help lessen the stigma surrounding schizophrenia, at least with the people I know. I don't expect to have a huge reach. Um, because I'm diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder, I've done a few videos on living with psychosis since that first initial rant. And after my last video that specifically talked about what psychosis is like, a friend of mine asked me more about hallucinations and what hearing voices and living with it's like. And they asked me if I'd be willing to make like an in-depth video on the subject, and I told them like, of course. Um, so first off, I'm gonna give a content warning because some of what I'm going to mention could upset people. Some of the stuff I'm gonna get into is personal, can be pretty embarrassing, a little weird. Took me a while to make this because sitting down and talking about this stuff is kind of hard. Also, I've just been demotivated. I made a video about being demotivated while I was like procrastinating making this video. And I actually just posted that today. I wasn't going to post it, but I ended up posting it anyway. I like let a friend of mine see it, and she was like, "You need to post this." So I was like, "All right, I'll post it." Um, and then basically I've just been procrastinating, and I haven't been working on this video at all. I've been trying to work on it, but it's been really hard. But finally, I'm just gonna sit down and fucking do it. Okay, so this video is mainly about hallucinations, hearing voices, and things like that. My last video on psychosis, I talked a lot about what living with psychosis is like and delusions, but this one's going to focus on hallucinations. So first things first, there are positive and negative symptoms associated with schizophrenia. Note that positive and negative do not mean good and bad in this context, but rather what is added and what is subtracted. Think of it like that. Delusions and hallucinations are considered positive symptoms because they are ways of thinking and perceiving being added to the individual. Negative symptoms diminish or remove normal behavior related to motivation, interest, and or verbal emotional expression. One major negative symptom many recognize is flat affect or blunted affect. This means the person may appear emotionless, communicate in a stiff manner, have trouble expressing their emotions. They may not speak with a lot of inflections. They may be very monotone. Another example of a pretty common negative symptom is anhedonia, which I'm probably not pronouncing right because I'm stupid, but it's spelled A-N-H, Jesus Christ, Anhedoni, okay? And you might recognize the word hedonistic in there, hedon. Yeah, anhedonia. It means it's a reduced ability to feel pleasure or like you completely just lack the ability to feel it at all. Another common one is social withdrawal, which is, probably schizophrenics are incredibly isolated and suffer from social withdrawal because their symptoms can be pretty hard for other people around them to deal with, and they know that. So they tend to just spend a lot of time alone. Maybe they have one or two friends. I know with me, most of my friends are online people. I don't really have in real life friends. I don't. Anyway, in my research, I found that roughly 60% of schizophrenics have prominent negative symptoms that require treatment. I personally experienced both negative and positive symptoms. Like I just said with social withdrawal, I just don't leave my house. I don't talk to people. I do feel that it's hard for me to feel like real pleasure. And I have hallucinations, which is what this video is about. And I also have disorganized thinking at times, and I have delusions. So like one way to think of positive symptoms, they're marked by any changes in behavior and thinking that are different from how the individual acted before. Instead of taking away or making the person withdraw, they add behaviors and such. So some examples of positive symptoms are hallucinations, delusions, disorganized speech, and disorganized thinking, which I just talked about those. And I think you can understand what disorganized thinking and disorganized speech is. Disorganized speech is when you talk something like nothing that really comes out of your mouth makes sense. You can ask my boyfriend; it happens to me all the time. So, all right. So today I'm going to be focusing specifically on hallucinations. Hallucinations fall into 5 categories: auditory, which is hearing things that aren't really there, such as music or voices; visual, seeing things that aren't really there; um, olfactory, which that's like your scent, like you smell things that aren't really there, basically; and one that is like that I've never experienced, I don't think, is gustatory hallucinations, which makes things taste like unpleasant. It just like you'll taste things that aren't really there and they're usually unpleasant. And then a pretty rare one is tactile hallucinations, feeling touch or movement in or on your body. Now I get those every once in a while, but not very often. I've experienced tactile before, and I've read that they're the least common type of hallucination for pretty much everybody. Like some people get them all the time, but for the most part, feeling somebody touch you or feeling something inside, like people will feel like their organs moving around and shit. That's pretty rare, but it can happen. When it comes to olfactory, now this I'm not sure, because I've always had a good sense of smell, and throughout my life I've always complained of scents, and like other people would say they didn't smell shit, and that's been a pretty common thing. And I'm not sure if this is a result of me hallucinating smells or if I just have a really good sense of smell. Like I always smell like wet dog and shit, you know? And like other people will tell me they don't smell anything, and that's my whole life has been like that. So I can't really identify if I'm hallucinating or if like my sense of smell is just over the top. Um, with that out of the way, let me answer the first question. So, what is hearing voices like? It's like hearing regular voices, which is why it can be so terrifying. They can sound like they're in your head, a few feet away, in another room, or even whispering in your ear. Uh, like Senua's Sacrifice is extremely accurate with depicting how I experience voices. Um, I should say that I'm only speaking on my experience, by the way, so other people with psychosis might not relate to anything I'm saying. I want to make it clear that I don't speak for everyone, just myself. But that aside, sometimes the voices are loud and distorted. Other times they are quiet, gentle, whispery. Uh, when they want my attention, they demand it, and they grow very loud and angry, and they start saying things that they know I will respond to. Um, if they're not being mean, sometimes they'll just chit chat in the background while I go about my day. Um, So my voices seem to play on my fears. In fact, there's an entire treatment plan based on dialoguing with your voices and finding out what fears or situations they're attempting to address. But I'll talk about that later. So again, uh, this might get kind of dark, so again, a trigger warning. So I'm going to talk about, I'm going to touch on what voices say, and that's why I'm saying this could get really dark and why there's like a content warning here. So when I'm in the throes of psychosis, the voices will spend the better half of the day telling me to delete myself from reality in the most fucked up, creative ways. Um, I'm not going to tell you like exactly what they say, but that is their first choice of torment, almost always. And if it's not about that, then they tell me to self-harm in various ways. They'll also talk about my weight, my looks, and one of the biggest things that they pick on more than anything is something that I've tormented myself with ever since my sister died, and it's nobody loves you, and you should have been the one who died. Which is actually something that I'm pretty sure my family actually thinks that. That's not a delusion. Like, I'm pretty sure there are members of my family who actually were like, God, she should have been the one who died, not her sister. I'll actually tell a brief story about that. A long time ago, I was playing Fable 2, which is a pretty damn good game, just as an aside. But I was fighting a banshee, and the banshees, like, they whisper horrible things to you. They play on your fears, like voices, haha. And in the game, the main character loses a sister in the beginning, and that's like the whole plot of the story, is you're seeking revenge for that death. And the banshee spends a lot of time telling you that you're worthless and should die, nobody loves you, and all that stuff, right? But one of the subjects it touches on is the death of your sister. Now, again, in real life, I've lost a sister. So this shit got to me, especially when it basically said that my sister wouldn't be proud of me and I should have died instead. And my voices have been telling me that for ages, and like I said, I'm pretty sure there's people in my family who actually think that. So hearing the game sent me just off the deep end, right? Like I was like, fuck, bro. Like that shit triggered the hell out of me. Um, that is how my voices seem to work. They take my darkest fears and thoughts and put them on blast for me to listen to all day, every fucking day when I'm in psychosis. Um, Does it get old? Oh god, yes. And does it go away ever? Yeah, it's not 24/7. And like it gets worse when I'm in psychosis. So like Sometimes listening to music or wearing headphones drowns them out when it's real bad. But like when I'm not in full blown psychosis, voices make comments here and there throughout the day, but they don't get obnoxious and intolerable unless like things are really bad and I'm super stressed out. Um, and another thing that a lot of people ask is, are voices all negative? No, they're not. Some are much kinder than you think. They might ask questions about what I'm doing or even encourage me to get what I need to get done. Sometimes they'll ask questions. Sometimes they'll tell jokes. One thing I will say is that the external voices seem to be more like command voices, although this isn't always the case. It's often the case. Like they tell me to do silly, sometimes dangerous or stupid things that have no good end result. If it isn't harming myself physically, then it's harming myself mentally by isolating, talking down to myself, by feeling unworthy of help, or doing one of these silly fucking commands like, I don't know, they might tell me like, oh, you need to like stare at the wall for 3 hours straight and hum this one song, right? Like hung "Don't Fear the Reaper" or something. It's something ridiculous that doesn't mean anything. It's like, well, if you don't do that, then Josh will get in a car crash on his way home today, so you better do that. And it's like, well, I don't want Josh to get into a car crash, so I guess we're singing "Don't Fear the Reaper" for 3 hours while we stare at the fucking wall. I don't know. It's shit like that. Or, oh, like sometimes I'll be hanging out with friends. Like this has happened before. I've been out in public, right? And just at dinner with my friends. And like they'll be like, you should throw your food at them. You should throw your food at them. You should just smash your plate in his face. You should cuss out the waiter. You should throw water all over people. And I'm just trying to fucking eat. Like, you know what I mean? Shit like that. Now that will happen even when I'm outside of psychosis. Like, I swear the voices get triggered when I hang around with other people because, like I said, they play on fears. So, anyway, internal voices tend to tell a story or comment on the mundane. They'll talk about someone's hair or face. And again, like I said, sometimes internal voices can be command voices. Not all external voices are command. Not all internal voices are like what I'm saying. This is just my normal general experience with them. Um but like they'll just talk about people like, or they'll bring up an old memory or narrate what I'm doing. Like if I walk out the door, they're like, she's walking out the door. She's going to do this today. Blah 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 blah. Yeah, just really silly stuff like that. And like I can deal with that. I can deal with random sounds and I can deal with like uh them just like narrating my day or making comments here and there about things. What I can't deal with is when they're telling me to hurt myself and things like that. And that's real bad. And what that does is it affects me externally. Like I don't know how to act when that's happening. So I'll like shut down. I can't talk and it becomes like extremely stressful and I'm not the best at dealing with it, although I have learned how to like sort of calm down the voices at times. Besides voices, auditory hallucinations also include like loud noises, exaggerated sounds to the point of sensory overload, music that is often muffled or seems to be coming from outside or another room, people talking in another room, and specifically about me, but I can't hear what they're saying, but I know they're talking about me. And also, I only live with Josh. If Josh is at work and I hear people talking in another room, there's nobody here. But I can hear them in there, and of course they're talking about me. And even though I can't hear what they're saying, but then if I go check the room, there's nobody in there. It's very annoying. If I do happen to like sometimes I'll hear music, right? And if I do happen to like hear the lyrics to the music, which I usually can't, it's almost always mocking me or making fun of me or saying something mean in some way. Um, I also have this like recurring. It's like a hallucination, because I know it's not real, but I can feel the presence of someone in my bathroom. It's strange because it's like I can't see them, but I feel them like in the shower. And they have like this really threatening aura. I think, like I said, it's like an anime aura, like, oh, I feel murderous intent from that person, right? But I can't see them. Sometimes I'll see a shadow or I'll hear like a cough or movement, but it's like I know there's no one in there. And if I look, there's no one in there. Um, Another thing is doors. I hear doors constantly opening and closing. And like there's not many doors in my house. Like from where I'm sitting right here, I can see all the doors in my house with the exception of the closet doors in the bedroom, right? If I'm sitting here playing games or something and I hear doors opening and closing, I can look and see that my bathroom door is not open, that my bedroom door is not open, that my front door is closed, right? But I will like hear like boom, 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 like doors unlocking and stuff. And that can be pretty fucking obnoxious, but it's better than being told to die, so that's cool. Sensory overload. So, one symptom that I've experienced is my senses being crossed and sensory overload. This is where I experience my senses in a different way, improper to how we're supposed to, I suppose you could say. For instance, if I get stressed to the point of overload, my senses will legit begin to cross. Like I'll see music, I'll hear color, feel voices and objects. I've even lost the ability to speak, which freaked me the fuck out when it happened. And it's almost like a temporary form of synesthesia that is induced by sensory flooding. Basically, it's induced by too much stimuli around me. Um, and I actually recently read that sensory flooding happens a lot to schizophrenics. Basically, when everything around them becomes too much, they get overloaded and cannot focus on tasks, even simple ones. The mundane sounds of the world around me have always assaulted my senses, but what's stuck out about this is the fact that these background noises are things most people can drown out while I can't, which is annoying. My entire life has been spent trying to figure out why everything takes me longer, why I can't understand as quickly as others, why I get so distracted so easily, and now I realize it's just my brain attacking me again, like always. And I'm actually a stupid person. I say this all the time. So the last thing I need is more obstacles against me when it comes to learning. But whatever. So, how do I deal with voices? So earlier I mentioned talking with voices and dialoguing with voices as treatments that are supported by both professionals and patients. Quite a few years ago, I watched a TED Talk from a woman named Eleanor Longden, a research psychologist who has schizophrenia, where she went in depth about opening up a dialogue with your voices because their comments usually reflect fears. This TED Talk changed everything for me, and it changed how I deal with my symptoms. Studying the Talking with Voices method has received funding from the National Institute for Healthcare or Health and Care Research. Yeah, it's called Health and Care Research. It's just shouldn't it just be healthcare research? I don't know. Anyway, it began um it began with the International Hearing Voices movement, and it's based on the idea that voices may reflect real-world conflicts and difficulties in the life of the person experiencing them. My personal experience has been that voices become calmer and easier to deal with if you just try to talk to them. Sometimes the fear being addressed can be extremely straightforward, such as, don't leave the house. This is a simple reflection of my fears of the outside world, right? The more I question the voices on why I should be so afraid, they their answers they start to swirl back to my fears, to my conscious irrational fears, right? And there are some less straightforward ones that they'll address, like the belief that my food is being poisoned, or somehow it's going to kill me, or that it's going to make me sick, or that someone's spit in it, or something like that. What I realized is this is about weight after questioning voices and really reflecting. Um, I've always had extreme issues with my weight. I'm extremely scared of being fat. I've always pictured being fat as the worst thing in the world. This goes back to my childhood, spent being told that if I get fat, no one will love me. I remember my own mother telling me that men will leave me, no one will want to be around you, you can't eat that much because you'll get fat, nobody likes fat people, just all kinds of nonsense like that, right? But because of this, it is ingrained in my brain that if I get too much weight, I'm worthless. And like the voices have responded to this by creating these logical reasons why I shouldn't eat. Like, oh, this is poison. Oh, this is going to make you sick. And sometimes they'll just say, that's going to make you fat. Don't eat that. I mean, I had basically an eating disorder for many years of my life, and my voices reflect that when they tell me, don't eat this, it's going to be poison. Don't eat that, it's bad for you. And, stuff like that. These voices are aspects of yourself, at least for me it is. It's obvious that mine are. I cannot speak for everyone else, like I said, but for me, my voices are reflecting my own feelings, my fears, and things like that. So, beyond auditory hallucinations, there's visual hallucinations. So, one of the things that I see a lot are bugs, flowers. Um, Flowers are pretty common hallucination that I have actually. Butterflies. Sometimes I see the sky change colors. I'll see weird shit. Things distort. If I'm looking at a tree, I'll see it kind of twist and turn and move, but I know it's not really moving. There's no wind, and even if there was wind, it wouldn't make it move in that way. Um like I know I've hallucinated a person before, a few times, but they weren't as detailed as real people, and they would hide their face. I saw them in Alaska, and then I saw the same person when I moved back to California, and I was like, well, that can't be. They're not following me around, so I knew it had to be in my head. Um, Most commonly though, what I see is distortions of what's in front of me. So like a wall might warp, the floor might change texture and colors right before my eyes. Colors may become brighter or muted. I'll see trails around things emitting light. Like if there's a fireplace, I'll see trails. And this again is like in Senua's Sacrifice. When she walks by like the flames, you see those trails around it. Super accurate. Another common thing that I'll see is I'll see things out of the corner of my eye. And like they won't just go away. They'll stick there. They'll like move with my eye. Um, it'll look like a face or a shadow, a big fucking bug, which is terrifying. I always see like these big ass fucking bugs out the corner of my eye. And I'm so glad that I never see them straight on because I hate insects. Um, or I'll see like an object or something off in the corner being distorted. And it like won't look quite right though. It'll look like AI art made it right. Like I think I said this last night to Josh, but I said like I saw a fireplace once, but it just seemed off. And it's like it just seems like someone who's not human made it, so like it's got anime titties stuck on it or something, because you know that's how AR art does things. But yeah, that actually is pretty much it. I don't really, like I said, I don't really know if I experienced the olfactory hallucinations. I don't know if I, like my tactile hallucinations are, they're hard to identify, honestly. Like, sometimes I think I'll feel pain inside my body, but I mean, I could just be in pain, right? Like, I don't know. It's like, I have actually read that sometimes you will have these mysterious pains and aches and like that's associated with schizophrenia. They're like tactile hallucinations, but I'm like, man, I could just be in pain though, right? Like, at what point do pains and aches become a hallucination? Like, how does a doctor identify that you're hallucinating that pain, right? Like that, it's kind of strange to me. So I don't know. It's, but I did read that. So, and when it comes to olfactory senses, one thing I read was that the smells can be so strong that you might think they're coming from you. Now I've never had that. Now, see, I've never thought it was coming from me, but I have had where I've just like continuously smelled something and no one else smelt it. It was just like a rotten, uncooked kind of scent. It was just like, what the fuck is that, right? And again, cannot tell if that's my sense of smell being really good or if those are hallucinations. Okay, so now that's pretty much it. So lately, I've been feeling really down and unmotivated. Like I have no purpose and like I don't have any meaning. And making videos to help educate my friends and talking about this kind of stuff really helps because it makes me feel like I have some sort of purpose, like I'm helping people. And I mean, I guess I'm just glad that my friends are willing to listen while I'm doing something that I feel like is, you know, worth a damn on this planet. And that's why I welcome any questions you guys have, and I'll do my best to answer them. But that's pretty much going to do it. So thanks for caring, and thanks for listening.